Hello beautiful bookworms, welcome to Squirrel's Bookshelf. I'm Jess, head squirrel, and this is what I learned today. It is really warm today in England, so I've got the window open. Apologies if there's any background noise. So this is not news, this apparently came out in 2017, but I only just learned about it today. So whilst working on some other videos coming up, I was doing a little research into Roald Dahl, the prolific author of books such as Matilda and the BFG and The Witches and much more. And I came upon a BBC interview with his widow, Felicity Dahl, in which she explained that Dahl had quite different plans for the title character in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. In fact, Charlie Bucket was originally black. Now, this was in an early draft titled Charlie's Chocolate Boy, which essentially had a similar setup to the novel. It was a mysterious magical chocolate factory which was opening its gates to the lucky winners of golden tickets. Although in this draft there were 7 golden tickets instead of 5, so there were 2 extra children. The other 6 children were all white, but Charlie was black and accompanied not by his ailing grandfather, but by his 2 doting parents. This draft was heavily researched by Catherine Kaiser, not quite sure which, but she's an associate professor of English at the University of South Carolina, and she was able to elaborate more of this original plot in a New York Times article, which I will link in the description. Now, in this version, Willy Wonka is married with a son, so Charlie doesn't become his heir and inherit the chocolate factory, but rather he's given his own store in the city center called Charlie's Chocolate Shop. But his skin color played an important role in a scene in the Easter room, which was filled with life-size molds of different creatures, and also one of a chocolate boy. Charlie is fascinated by this mold, perhaps because he can sort of see himself in it, so Willy Wonka helps him into the mold, I guess to inspect it or something, but of course Wonka gets distracted, the mold closes, and suddenly chocolate starts pouring all over Charlie. After the chocolate nearly suffocates and drowns him, it then hardens, leaving him trapped in a very uncomfortable situation. But Charlie is alive, of course, and he can actually see a little bit out of the chocolate because I guess there's little holes in it. So he gets taken back to Wonka's house and gets put in an Easter basket to give to Wonka's son the next day. But while he's waiting to be cracked open and finally released, some burglars enter Wonka's house, and Charlie is able to alert Wonka by groaning or something, and saves the day. Now, Kaiser made a few interesting points in the article about this episode. On the one hand, this was written during a time when American and British chocolate ads were very fantastical but imperialistic, connecting chocolate to people with brown skin tones left, right, and center. So in a way, the idea that Charlie found this mold of a chocolate boy which seemed to fit him perfectly, but ultimately ended up trapping him, was sort of a powerful allegory. Unfortunately, Dahl's literary agent urged him not to make Charlie black, with the idea that having a black hero wouldn't be as appealing to his readers. I think it's a shame, and perhaps if another film gets made someday, that can be reverted back to Dahl's original intent. That said, we can't escape the other racial criticisms that Dahl's writing has received, even in the same work. In the first printings of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the Oompa Loompas were actually said to be black African pygmies. Even for the times, it wasn't exactly a good move, with the civil rights movement happening in the States and the race riots happening in the UK, but Dahl claimed that he had no racist intent. So when the NAACP approached him in 1970 ahead of the making of the film, and explained that the importation of Oompa Loompas had strong overtones of slavery, Roald Dahl was actually more than happy to rewrite the story in time for the second US edition. Instead, the Oompa Loompas became white, hippie-ish dwarves that came from Loompaland. And of course in the film they became orange-skinned and green-haired in an attempt to avoid the issue of race altogether. Now, that hasn't stopped the criticism of the Oompa Loompas. After all, they are still living beings on whom Wonka tests all of his experimental treats. But that just goes to show how far we have come as a society. Ambivalence is no longer an excuse, and I think that these are very valid discussions we are having about what is and isn't acceptable, even in the realms of fiction. But admittedly, it is not so much my discussion to have outside of listening and being an ally. And that's all I've got for you today. If you have any thoughts on the subject, feel free to leave a comment below. But as always, be kind, be curious, and be effective.